I hate discussion boards and I want to talk about it. In case you guys don't know, I'm currently studying mechanical engineering at a university. And with that degree, you got to take a lot of gen eds as with any other degree. And these gen eds aren't horrible. Sometimes you can actually learn some things from them. But the thing that I hate the most about them is all the busy work that they give us. And the thing that is on my mind right now are discussion boards. I'm your host, Seb, and if you enjoy this video, please leave a like and comment down below what's your favorite part about campus or what's your worst favorite part about campus. Because mine right now is going to be discussion boards. And the reason why I hate them so much is just because I think that they don't actually provide a lot of value or a lot of insight for students because they're so easy to just cheat or write nonsense over, and the grading scale for them is just often ridiculous because I don't even know why I don't get hundreds on my discussion boards even though I feel like I met all the requirements. My teachers don't ever comment on the reason as to why I got docked some points, or maybe my responses weren't good enough on somebody else's post, which is again all subjective. No requirements there, and they just give me a grade for that. But the thing I hate the most about it is the fact that it is really all just busy work. Because with most discussion boards that I've had, all of them are like 250 word requirements, and it's always an answer to a prompt, and then it's go respond to 2 or 3 other people, and it doesn't even say how you're supposed to respond to that. It just says respond to them. And I'm getting sick and tired of it just because the amount of people that use AI to answer these prompts is just sickening. And I can't even blame them. You know, like if it was a prompt that you want to write about and you want to use AI, then go for it. But the thing that hurts me is the fact that we have to respond to these people, and half the time they couldn't explain the shit that they fucking wrote. The Oklahoma girl who wrote that stupid college essay that didn't even cite the Bible correctly literally wrote better paper than whatever these guys are writing for the discussion boards, because at least she had passion, you know, she had hate in her heart. These guys just don't give a fuck. They just put in the prompt into ChatGPT or Google Gemini and then just copy and paste it over. And the worst part is that I can prove it because every single time that I've done these assignments, you know, I use AI in order to have an idea of like what the direction of the prompt that I'm going to go. I talk to it and say, you know, like, give me a couple of ideas to spill from this area, and then I go find some good resources about it and write about it. Versus these guys literally just take the 2 fucking top answers that it gets, and they're talking about something we didn't even talk about in class. For any of you guys out there that think that I'm just BSing this or making it a bigger deal than what it actually is, I went ahead and pulled a prompt from one of my classmates, and then I compared it to what Google Gemini said about it. So let's go ahead and read it and take a look. So in their post, they wrote, "The Federal Reserve System took some huge steps to try to help our economy recover. One big step was the Federal Reserve was something called quantitative easing. To summarize, the Federal Reserve bought large amounts of government bonds and other assets from the bank. Yada, 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 yada. This will also lead to bond prices going up. This leads to people borrowing money and spending it as well." Okay, that's the first point. The second point that they talk about is another step these guys took was, like I mentioned briefly, is that interest rates went almost to zero. Yada yada. By lowering this rate, the Federal Reserve hoped to make borrowing cheaper for businesses and families. When interest rates are low, people are more likely to borrow money to buy things. Yada yada. And so that's the end of their excerpt. So let's compare it to what Google Gemini has to say. So Google Gemini actually has their points flip-flopped, you know. Got to change it up a little bit so the teacher doesn't catch on. But the first point that they state is that the federal government lowered its target for the federal funds rate, bringing it to a range of 0% to 0.25% by late 2008. By lowering short-term interest rates, overall borrowing costs decreased throughout the economy. That sentence sounds a little bit familiar. The second point that they say is because short-term rates could not practically go below zero, the Fed introduced quantitative easing. This involved large-scale purchases of long-term treasury securities and mortgage-backed securities. The theory here was to increase the money supply and drive down long-term interest rates, injecting critical liquidity into struggling financial markets and encouraging banks to resume lending by removing toxic assets from their balance. Wow. So if you guys look at those 2 sentences side by side, you can tell that everything that was said was literally just regurgitated with synonyms or much easier, less dense words from my classmate. And this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about. It makes it hard to read and have to respond to, because now I have to go take time out of my day to go read their post and then go figure out what the fuck they're talking about and then try to come up with a response to them. And so maybe I'm the bad guy in this situation now, because I'm going to talk about how I actually respond to these people. And, you know, I'm not gonna go ahead and call them out on their bullshit because that's not on me. That if the professor wants to give them a 0 for using AI, like go ahead. If they want to give them 100, fuck them. I don't care. But the way I respond to them is I purposely go after some of these people that have like the worst offenses when it comes to writing like this, and then just call them out on their bullshit. And so like for me, I do my posts and then I go compare like my details to theirs, and I say, hey, actually you missed this important point, or hey, actually I think you're wrong here, and I just go ahead, put it out, put it in like the 100 words or whatever, and then I just move on with my day. And what makes me upset is the fact that I think I'm getting graded horribly on my responses, and maybe it's because I'm like coming off as a dick, and I can't blame my teacher if you just see like somebody responding to somebody else's post who you thought maybe was like well written, and they're just being like, hey, I think your post is bullshit. I can't blame the guy, but in my head I'm like, well, can you at least tell me like why I'm getting these points docked off? All of this is to say that I think discussion boards are horrible. And what I honestly think that they should do moving forward is just give us worksheets with thoughtful questions that we're supposed to respond to. And then maybe you can tell people to post or like answer somewhere else and have people respond to that. But the way that discussion boards are right now it's just not productive. Because nobody actually takes the time and learns the stuff if it's not relevant to their major. Like for me, I took AP US history in high school, and so a lot of this stuff, this fiscal policy that we're learning about, macroeconomics, makes a little bit of sense, and I'm referencing back on material that I did. But for a lot of these other people, they didn't have as much privilege as I did going to my high school and didn't get to take as high level of a class that went as in depth into fiscal policy. So these guys are just trying to get through it, and like I can respect that, I can understand it, but having me have to take the time to respond to their bullshit, like that's not cool at all. And that's the part that offends me the most, because it's like they think that we don't have the time, or they think that this is the only way that we can find understanding. And I disagree. I think that if they gave us some really well thought out answers where people had to go into the book and actually know what they're talking about in order to respond, it would be great. But the fact that you can just do this and put it into like AI, it's just stupid. And I guess people will say that, oh, but you could put the other one into AI as well. But I feel like when it comes to worksheets, like the more specific, more detailed you can make it, the harder it is for AI to like actually replicate it. Maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely out of whack when it comes to this thing. I'm just trying to spit out an idea because honestly, I want this thing to change. And shout out to whoever else is going into college, all of you guys who are looking at colleges right now. Like, I hope that you want this to change as bad as I do, because I'm a senior right now and dealing with this is just the last thing on my priority. That's mostly all I wanted to say. I don't think college is horrible, and I don't think discussion boards are completely evil. They're not the fucking devil. But I definitely don't want to see any more of these moving forward, and I'm so glad that I only got 2 more before I finish this class. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.